champion would see through the picks and bans. One of the champs we talked about, Cassidy, he's gone.
Yeah, Cassidy going to get the boot there by Kinger on the right-hand side, the red side here for game one. Vici on the blue side. Ban out Z now as well as that Rango here. So some of the picks we did discuss in that pregame now getting considered. Rek'Sai there as well for King.
The strategy behind banning it on blue is very interesting to me, just because it suggests to me that they're looking to not give over Azir and another powerful pick when they have their first round pick here. So maybe they're looking for a Janna first pick and not giving away too much to the enemy team. Unclear, but at least, you know, with Cassidy banned, Azir has a lot of favorable matchups. So it makes sense to ban it even on blue.
Yeah, Thresh ban there as well by Vici, so they'll ban that one away. And King now going to get one last ban who's on. They do go with Nah, which is pretty solid ban here at this point.
Still so many powerful picks open. Lissandra, very importantly, has escaped picks and bans right here. If we do see a Janna first pick for Mata, of course, so wonderful on that champion. Going to probably be the instant Lissandra, just because she's one of the champions with gap close that Janna can't really deal with. Rumble's been available. Rumble's been a first pick in many series yesterday, at least. A lot to pick from.
I mean, that's sort of an argument to maybe just take the Lissandra here as the first pick. It's a strong flex pick. It doesn't get Mata's Janna into trouble if he wants that later on. I mean, Janna's a very important pick for Vici, but it'll be interesting to see. As you mentioned, the blue side first pick always tells you a lot.
And it's going right down the wire right here.
Wow, and Rumble actually, the consideration as their last pick, they lock it in.
I think it's insane that you could potentially give away Janna and Lissandra. That would be so much power being given away. The reason why I actually wanted to see the Janna first pick is because Vici is so well known for that dandy Mata roam. And of course, Janna, she's so fast. She has that W. She, of course, speeds up her teammates. Makes it so easy to go in and get those deep wards almost risk-free. I mean, this is the Janna mull over right here. There's some very powerful champions open to King.
Yeah, and this is sort of the thing. I feel like coming into week one, if we go back a few weeks, that we just kind of said, okay, here are 3 strong champions, and that's all we really knew about the bans. But we've seen a lot more flavor out of the LPL. Lots of picks that aren't contested in other regions are contested here, and some of the picks that are popular internationally are popular as well. But Lissandra Jarvan will be their final first 2 picks.
Janna Jarvan was available. You saw Janna being mulled over before Lissandra was locked in right there. I mean, I believe the statistic that was coming through that right now in competitive play, Rumble has a 57% win rate. Might have even been higher than that. It's just a massive win rate does Rumble have right now. So kind of makes sense to have that priority. They still get the Janna. They probably did not expect that in the second rotation. And now what exists to answer this Azir pick? Is it going to be the Fizz? Is it going to be a real AD assassin coming out of Assassin here?
Yeah, we'll have to see. Here's Janna and Xerath the next 2 picks right there for Vici. I feel like having the Lissandra is fine for King. They expected the Janna. Picking Lissandra almost as a proactive counter pick works there as well. And King going to consider their next few options. We've seen a lot of that little Yordle recently as well, but so true to consideration also. But we'll see what King want to go for. Again, we've seen them play well. It's solid drafting and really good early game, so these picks are very important for them.
Yeah, they were mulling over picking up a support, but they probably will lock in the Lee Sin here.
Yeah, Lee Sin Tristana are going to be the 2 picks there for King.
But they have really kind of locked in their solo lanes at this point. They've got both Lee Sin and Jarvan selected, so it's probably going to be the Jarvan top, probably going to be Lissandra middle. A lot of free information open to Vici right here, but they've of course locked in their solos as well. So I just feel like in this case, Vici have a lot of information about what to do. Only the support is missing out for King, and I guess they're kind of debating, do we go for that Nami to have a bit of more laning power with the Tristana, a bit more disengage, or do we just wait and see what kind of comp Vici rounds out with and go from there?
Yeah, we'll have to see here as Vici considering their last few picks as well. Very popular 80 carry hovers for Vasilli now as well, and he's definitely had some decent performances recently. That would be pretty interesting, and Vici are going to go for it. Sivir and Nunu are their 4th and 5th picks.
Dandy Nunu. That is a really tantalizing pick coming out right there. It has so much potential for counter jungle. I think mlxg now really reevaluating his game plan this game, because it's not going to be equal jungle pressure. He hasn't actually removed jungle pressure with this double lock-in right here. He's actually opened up the gambit for Daniel to pull out that Nunu. I saw you kind of being interested at some of the picks coming out from leym right here. You can go for any support on the board.
Thresh is not open, sorry. I actually was just going to check that because that's been a very popular champion of both Mata and leym as well. Kind of funny that they have to maneuver Lissandra probably to the mid lane now as well because they've got Jarvan and Lee Sin. They could go really crazy and put one of those ADs in the mid lane, but probably not going to do that.
Now, I mentioned it before. It's almost certainly going to be the Jarvan top, Lissandra mid. Plenty of Lee Sin jungle pressure coming out here, but Nunu versus Lee Sin is going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, Nami there as well, the last pick for King. So lineup's only got nicely for both teams, but I feel like maybe the coolest thing to look at in this draft has to be the Dandy Nunu.
Yeah, I mean, Nunu's seen a lot of success so far in the LPL. Only 1 loss coming out of EDG is clear love on that champion, but Beast especially has been wonderful on Nunu right here. it just puts a kind of a different dynamic to the game. Because Nunu, not the biggest ganking jungler. He can go in, throw a snowball, irritate the enemy laner, but hard to get those really successful ganks until you maybe use kind of his ability to take down objectives, to get aggressive wards down with that sight stone, and then the absolute zero in vision is a sight to behold sometimes.
Yeah, I actually really like the AoE combo in general. The absolute equalizer there from the Rumble and the Nunu. There's a lot of AoE pressure you can put on. We've seen Janna Nunu as well be a really big zone control tool. So Snake, you mentioned with Beast Nunu, did this already. This is a really cool, very zone control, vision-oriented comp for Vici. Kind of exactly what we expect from Dandy and Marta.
Actually, I mean, it's the kind of the additional effects to the absolute zero that actually get underplayed, perhaps, between the AoE slow, the AoE attack slow as well. It has there. It can be used for that zone, the absolute equalizer, which you've coined there. Very, very nice. And a lot of potential for huge amount of magic damage burst, of course, with HeTong on that Xerath, no less.
Yeah, pretty good against Tristana as well, trying to maybe dull a bit of that hypercarry action.
Absolutely.
We'll have to see here what we are going to go through. And a really interesting game between these two teams. Very curious to see how it goes, but we're going to get into it right after this. And welcome to the Rift here. Vici and King are out on for their first best of two of this day in their first game, of course, as well. Vici on the left-hand side. They're our blue team here for game one. King over on the right. They'll be our red squad. And the Dandy Nunu has finally reared its head.
We see that Yeti sauntering towards the mid lane right here. It'll be interesting to see what sort of level 1 action we have. If we follow the theory, King should be very proactive in the early game here, just because having predictable pathing on a Nunu just helps you so much in the early game.
Oh, good ward kill there for King as well. So do draw first blood in a sense, taking that out, but they'll put a few more wards through the jungle with Vici, trying to defend off this blue that's getting very heavily invaded now by King.
Yeah, they have one very aggressive ward towards the mid turret here. You have to think they're going to go for the lane ward as well. So they really want to get the lanes there, what they want here. They really want to keep this Nunu on the back foot, because we've seen in that Beast versus Gamti match just how much damage a Nunu can get if he can move freely in the enemy jungle.
Yeah, and this is sort of the recipe early on for King that I think we're looking for. A lot of aggressive pushing through the jungle for vision, early wards down to spot the lane swap, put Whoosh on a hyper carry like Tristana. It was Twitch in the last game against Snake when they won. And, you know, find your good lanes, get everything going, get exactly where you want to, and play a really solid 10-15 minutes and win from there.
And all of that was on display in the match King had against Snake. The game one there, where they really out-rotated a Snake team, has been really on point with their rotations so far in the LPL this season. Strategically outthinking a team like Snake that's been so aggressive. Of course, we saw that wonderful first game against OMG with so many kills coming out of Snake. The power of Snake's rotations. They were doing some interesting thing. And Vici, they're looking for the re-engage here.
Yeah, I mean, intelligently re-invading their own jungle so they can make sure that no one from King's there to steal the buff. But King with a beautiful ward placed down by mlxg, spotting all 5 members going through. They know exactly the lanes that they're getting, and so their jungle started pretty much how they wanted it to.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have standard lanes, of course, inverted across the map right here. We'll see the Rumble versus Jarvan matchup in the bottom lane and 2v2 action in the top lane. One of the reasons why I really did expect this Nami pick is just because it gives Tristana a bit more laning power. It has a bit of disengage for the late game, but it has that heal. It has kind of that laning presence that few other supports can really give to Tristana. They're still going to really struggle against this Sivir Janna lane, but they'll do capably.
Yeah, Lucian will just complete his blue buff there as well. Didn't have too much help with Jarvan being down towards the bottom side of the map. So a little low in health there is mlxg, but he should be fine on Lee Sin. That was not what I expected. I thought King had gotten the 2v1 swap they wanted, but instead, Vici being very patient and grouping around the mid. They're going to get the lanes they want now, and we'll invert the standard lanes just like you mentioned.
Oh, to some degree, it was quite a high-risk strategy, re-invading at that late time. They could have gone wrong. They weren't, of course, working with complete information, but it worked out. They get the lanes they're looking for, and at least in terms of lane matchups, they're actually quite far ahead.
Yep, so it'll be interesting to see when they move around again to maybe look for that dragon around 10 minutes, but we'll farm up here. Tristana, not too uncomfortable against Sivir, especially if they can keep the wave trimmed in a good spot and counter push a bit more in the mid as well, even on CS there. The jungle is just doing their own patterns right now, so nothing major breaking out, although there's a little bit of an early CS lead here for Vasilli.
And in a 2v2, I do agree with you that Tristana versus Sivir is a decent matchup, but I mean, just reaching that minimum standard, you know, you mentioned they're keeping the wave push. That's so difficult when you have, of course, the shield coming out from Marta giving effectively free AD. It's going to be scaling up towards a free pickaxe very soon, around level 5. And then Vasilli will have free reign to push in here. And, of course, it should give the Nunu plenty of space and opportunity to go and do some aggressive counter jungling on mlxg's Lee Sin.
Yeah, and acceptable but not exciting perhaps there in the top lane. As Skye now will CS under his turret. Very nice using the Jarvan passive. Does miss one there, but he'll be okay. And very even here. Carry pushing quite aggressively early on. And this is a really weird top lane matchup.
Yeah, we have very aggressive pushing from both the top and bottom lanes. It's only Xerath at this point is being pushed in. Once he gets a few more levels in the queue, he'll also be able to push out his lane. And with 3 pushed out lanes and Mata and Dandy on your team, the vision train might start coming very soon.
Yeah, you kind of hinted at it already. Pushing out those lanes, give Dandy all of the space he could ever want here. He is going to Mundo it up a bit and go where he pleases. Just going to place some wards in towards the Grump and Blue intersection there as well. So hasn't done too much counter jungling, but again, have all of the vision and knowledge that makes Dandy just such a good jungler.
A lot of mobility on this Vici team here between the Blood Boil and, of course, all the movement speed that Janna gives on the hunt coming out from Sivir. You don't really see the AoE wombo coming out of the Equalizer right there. And, you know, you mentioned it before. It might actually be a lot required from the Absolute Zero, but wuxin's going in.
Yeah, wuxin going in already. mlxg going to chase it. Q onto Mata does land, but he does actually safeguard away. Not wanting to chase, just a good bit of trade damage there on the top side.
A very successful gank, though, for mlxg, just because it relieves so much pressure from this Sivir Janna lane. So putting Sivir Janna on the back foot, of course, Janna, when she's in a winning lane, providing that AD, topping off that shield, it's really good for your AD carry. But when you're behind, of course, doesn't have many other laning tools. So it's a massively successful gank there for Lee Sin.
Yeah, Carry in the bottom, getting aggressive onto Skye, but they'll just trade hits back and forth here. Carry actually ahead by a couple of CS, so doing well here, pushing hard into the bottom side of the map. Vasilli did also burn his 2 summoner spells, by the way, does go back and get a pickaxe, so he'll be a bit happier here as he returns back to the top lane, but looks like King is going to swap it back.
Yeah, I mean, Skye and Carry is a very farm-orientated lane just because Jarvan, he works best against really squishy champions that he can instant burst down if he gets a bit of early AD. Against this Rumble here, if he ever uses his gap closer, his flag and drag aggressively, he's really in danger of being reverse bursted down once the Equalizer comes available. So expect him to play pretty passive, uses regen here just to queue under the wave and get as much CS as possible, but probably going to see a very strong Rumble coming out at the first dragon fight.
Yeah, and always a scary thing as well as Wush returns to the top lane. Also didn't go for the swap back there. Instead pick himself up his own pickaxe and returns to farm in towards the top lane. So King have kept their turret up the top pretty healthy, I believe, but Wush has suffered a little bit on CS early on. Mid lane as well, dead even actually as they build up to what we can only assume is a early Morellonomicon.
Yeah, absolutely, double Morellonomicon, very likely between these mid laners.
That ult there, Leym could be in trouble. Last ball does land, the flash comes through and Vasilli. That one auto attack was not enough to kill the Nami.
Yeah, the roam from HeTong is different from a Kassadin roam. He just needs to go about halfway up the river right there. Gets so much damage down. It looked like that last ult charge might even have killed Nami there, so had to flash. But everybody's taking turns really putting aggression on this top lane and getting people out of their comfort zones.
And maybe take a moment just to reflect on how good Xerath has looked in the LPL this weekend and last weekend as well. A lot of players have started picking it up. You know, Barker was maybe on the Xerath train from Snake, but all in all, we've seen a lot of successful Xerath, even Dandy just in the last series.
Yeah, Barker's been pioneering it.
Dade.
Dade, Dandy, both Ds, both from
time.
Korea, but I mean, it's one of those picks that's really, really powerful in this current meta here just because it has so much wave clear. And the ult's basically an assassination tool once you get enough AP on it. So it's one of those champions that the mechanics to play it are actually quite difficult, especially that ultimate can really take a bit of time to get your eye in. But now that people are starting to play it, now that everyone's pressuring their carry, say, all right, you need to pick up Xerath as well, we're starting to see it become very common. And there's not that many champions that can deal with it in lane. And we know how much damage it can do in the late game.
Yeah, it looked really strong here. And Skye actually had to burn his teleport. We saw a bit of pressure there in the mid lane. So Jarvan attempted to help in. Cancelled it, of course, to has a slightly reduced cooldown. But early action here, Skye down the bottom onto Mata. That's very low there. The Cataclysm also coming in, forcing the flash out. That was Carry will return in kind with the telebot.
It was a wonderful exhaust coming from Mud. It completely negated any of the damage from Cataclysm right there. There was the longsword in the inventory. It would have done about 200 burst damage, the Cataclysm right there, but exhaust completely negating it. Very good use of summoner spells, and Marta lives to die another day.
Yeah, HeTong with his blue buff now as well. Going to continue pressuring Assassin. And again, these mid laners have really farmed it up in the early stages. Assassin going to walk over and get his own blue buff there as well. Will get spotted up by a ward. The ult not up. HeTong actually used it. I wonder if he's going for a steal. No, it doesn't look like it. Assassin will pick up the blue for himself. mlxg kindly donates that over to his mid laner.
It's a very big strategic outplay having Vici rotating their bot lane down back to the bot lane here, just because Sivir and Janna, there's nothing that a melee range top laner like Jarvan can do in that 1v2 situation. And of course, they give themselves the dragon control there. So it's a double win from Vici. Okay, they don't have the teleport up on carry right here. Of course, the Equalizer is such an important tool at the dragon fights. but it's still a very nice strategic outplay by Vici.
Yeah, and they know with both the cancels coming through that Skye doesn't have his either, so we're going to be 2v2, maybe 4v4 unless people start walking down from the top lane. So King going to settle in to continue farming these lanes here. Whoosh actually even now on CS with an Avarice Blade for Tristana, so on the way here, but again, we talk about it all the time with Trist. So important to not just get the 2 items really, but make sure you get to 3.
Absolutely. The Avarice Blade might indicate an early static shiv there because the static shiv does give her a little bit of mid-game power. Of course, the power trough is still a very relevant thing until at least those 2 AD items come in. But of course, he does have Dandy with the Blood Boil here to help him get over some of that power trough in the mid-game. With the Blood Boil running, with those big AD items, Tristana very relevant in the mid-game here. But there's a lot banking on this Tristana. It's the only consistent damage they have on the King side, apart from the burst of their top and mid laner.
Yeah, unfortunately unavailable to King unless Dandy breaks the game and misclicks horribly.
Of course. My mistake.
He's going to clear out a ward as well. That's actually what I wanted to ask you as well. What does the Blood Blow really do for this Vici team apart from get some of the more melee-focused champions in closer range? I
mean, Sivir, of course, will always be closing the distance right there, and having extra attack speed on her doesn't help her with her tank-busting ability. We've actually seen Jarvans really deal well with Sivir if they stack armor, get on top of her. She doesn't have a lot of options there. So maybe they'll actually focus on using it for repositioning of someone like Carry. If Rumble can get into the perfect spot, overheat with that equalizer, apply the Zhonya's, the Blood Boil is successful. And just, as a mobility tool, the attack speed doesn't always have to be a relevant statistic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Blood Boil is still a very strong ability. But it's just interesting to see that, not quite the Aurelia Nunu, which I think was a combo we saw in the LPLs. We return down to the bottom lane, even CS still for these AD carries who are really going at it. And King's bottom lane, are definitely getting the better of this push. Now, I assume Whoosh is maxing Explosive Shot here, or at least has a number of points into it. And that is going to make the early counter push here as he gets more levels quite a bit easier. Yeah,
it is the Explosive Shot max right here, and Vasilli's not looking to push in the lane. Of course, he has the option to do it here, especially when he's topped off with mana for the extra AD. But there's not always a reason to auto-push every lane. It sometimes puts you in really risky spots with jungle ganks. It looks like King are going to make a rotation here and take the first dragon.
Yeah, Dandy was spotted top, I have to assume. The ult is actually coming through for Xerath. Going to try and poke down mlxg, but he's going to be safe there. Nami for a bit of heals. Xerath's going to come in. Can he steal it? No, not quite enough. The teleport actually coming in for Vasilli. And Marta going on to mlxg. Wooch has to be careful. That's an amazing equalizer, but the Rocket Jump going to get him out. mlxg, though, not so lucky. Gets taken out by Sivir.
The zoning equalizer there was wonderful from Karius. Why you never want to fight against Rumble and there's chokes right there. We also see another exit kill coming out for Dandy here. 2-0 is the pickup. About even, you'd have to say, in terms of a trade for that first dragon.
I mean, back in the day when Dragon gave gold, absolutely. Hard to say now exactly how much it's worth, but I think Vici will take the trade there after losing the dragon. Seems absolutely fine as we return to the mid lane. Morella Nomicons are plenty there, as both Lissandra and Xerath have finished theirs up as well. I'm just kind of looking through some of the other items. Nothing super major completed yet. Skye, though, has gone for a Hex Drinker early on to help against the lane.
I definitely think you're on the mark in terms of the fact that obviously we do see a gold league coming out. 1,600 is the gold for Vici right here. But you have to consider the fact, you look down this Vici gaming lineup, both Rumble and Sivir on this team means they're looking to monopolize dragon control. So being able to get that first dragon, get that boost in stats, right now it might not be a big deal, but if we do see the next 2-3 dragons going to Vici, as you'd expect given their vision pedigree and of course the comp they've picked up right here, it might be invaluable, those extra 6% later in the game.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to quantify as well. We know that the 5th dragon's really good, and of course the only way to get to 5 is to take the first 4, so maybe the stats a little tricky to work out, but just the fact that you have one and the opponent doesn't that's easy. That's absolutely important.
And before the season started, there was a lot of people kind of speculating that, all right, games don't usually go long enough for the 5th dragon, but we've seen a lot of 5th dragons being picked up in the LPL so far here. The game time has increased about 5 to 10 minutes from previous seasons, so it does become a relevant concern. And it is that 1st, 3rd, and 5th dragon that have such a big boost in power, whether it's the 1st dragon and the sheer attack damage and AP statistics, the 3rd dragon and all that rotation and closing speed you get with the movement speed, and then the last dragon, my goodness, it really gives you quite the boost in power.
Yeah, not just a cool visual effect. We've seen games completely flip on their head because of that buff. As Assassin in the mid just dodges the stun there by HeTong. Dandy off to the side on his Nunu looking to get aggressive, but Assassin not going to have any of that here on Lissandra. With a decent 10 CS lead, is very happy farming up the mid.
I mean, Xerath in any lane matchup, if he's 10 CS behind, it's just fine for him. Of course, he's going to pick up that needlessly large rod, and that's usually when he can really clear waves aplenty and still have a lot of teamfight relevant damage. I mean, in terms of items, there's not any huge spikes to speak of. We don't quite see them double magic penetration on carry just yet. Maybe we'll have it in time for the 2nd dragon. The Merlin Commons finished for both the mid lanes as we'd expected. and just a lot of farming going on between the AD carries.
Yeah, looks like Carry and Skye just going to duel a little bit here as well in towards the top. See, it's pretty even though. Never mind, look up and Carry's actually 20 ahead. It's looking good there with the early Seeker's Arm. Got to help mitigate some of Skye's damage. And double magic resistance items there for Skye. He's definitely showing that I'm struggling a little bit here against the early Rumble pressure.
Well, it's one of those issues that Jarvan's quite a linear champion. He's going to use his EQ and R to engage a team fight, potentially from over 1,000 range. See a lot of people poking on the mid lane here. He's going to have to walk through a Rumble Equalizer, through the Absolute Zero, to some degree through Xerath's damage right there to get on top of that AD carry, so he needs that early magic resist.
Dandy popping in there with the ultimate from Xerath as well. Can he dodge the last bot? It's not enough damage. The tier 2 turret shield actually helping out there, but a really nice little play there from Vici to try and get a pick.
And HeTong was actually sitting on just over 1,600 gold. That Needless Large Rod would have been the difference right there. Very nice movement from Dandy. The aggressive wards start coming here, HeTong. This is what we speculated before the game. Once they start to open some distance here, Vici's going to try and monopolize vision in the back line.
Yeah, leym forced to flash, and Vici will get their first turret of the game. In fact, the first turret of anyone at all in this game, and the crucial mid turret being taken out there as well. Dragon not quite ready yet. It's going to be a couple more minutes until we get there, but Vici is starting to already look like that big vision control team that we talk about.
I mean, just look at this mini-map, HeTong. The map is littered with wards, either in the red side, top side, jungle right there. All of them aggressive wards, and this has been Vici's standard. Whether they're winning or losing, they always have wonderful ward control, and that opens them up to getting back into games, to contesting every objective, to strangling enemy teams out of any possible advantage.
Yeah, Wuxin does have a BF sword now for himself on the Triss, so getting a little bit better here. Again, Tristana does take quite a while to power up, but looking good so far. And be curious to see if Wuxin wants to go for a quick Infinity Edge and just really hold on to the Avarice blade, but we'll have to see here. Vasilli comfortable, goes back, gets his IE, and the CS from the AD carries equalizes.
Absolutely, and there's not a lot of CS between those two, and that's the big deal here, is that, of course, Sivir is expected to win lane by about 20 to 30 CS right here, so that the amount of time when Sivir is considerably stronger than this Tristana is getting shorter as the match goes on.
We'll have to see. Checking in with mid just briefly. Assassin up about 12 CS there as well. Both of them have actually gone back to shop, and needlessly large rods are completed, so big amount of poke for Xerath and burst for Assassin have come through as far as AP damage goes. So there'll be a much bigger threat here. So HeTong, actually, that's a beautiful stun. And now Dandy going to come in as well. Actually, might turn it around. That's going to force the flash hit from Assassin. Can't dodge, does dodge the last bullet. Never mind. Dandy going in, does pop his ultimate, snowballs as well. That's an amazing ult, though, from Lissandra to save herself. But HeTong's on there with the W and cleans out Assassin's Lissandra.
Yeah, Dandy saunters in on that Yeti, and they do pick up the kill here. And mlxg's in trouble.
That's a ridiculous amount of damage. mlxg forced off his own tier 2 turret. They're way back to base, and with Dragon up in 40, that's a great bit of pressure from Vici.
Yeah, that first Dragon is going to start looking invaluable if they can keep up this amazing vision control here, Vici. They've opened up the enemy red buff. They're going to take that. You have to think the Dragon's going to be largely uncontested because there's so minimal warding coming out from King right here. It's pretty much the Vici Vision show so far.
Yeah, and Dandy's Sightstone Nunu has been the cornerstone of the strategy, it looks like. And I guess it's obvious when you think about it, but Consume is going to make that objective control that Vici love even easier as well. So forget about Blood Bowl not being maybe at his best here. Is Wush actually going to go in? Vasilli forced to flash and pops his ulti. Looks like Skye's in the back there. He's teleported down here. Now the tidal wave is going to roll in. Vasilli and trouble. The port coming through from the top as well. Skye actually going to go back in onto Vasilli. A bit awkward from Mata, but they do get that first kill. Now Wush getting chased up by Carry. A good bubble there into Jana, but it's not enough. And now Nami forced to run away. The smite came in there from mlxg to try and save Nami. Almost gets the Q there from HeTong, but it's not enough. Carry, though, will get the double for Rumble. In fact, mlxg might be chasing down as well. Has to be careful, though, but he'll get back to the safety of his minion wave.
Really elongated fight right there, but the flash from Carry on the bubble was wonderful to pick up the second kill right there. It looked like his teleport was late. I was like, wow, he's really entering this fight late, but it turned out to be picture perfect. He picked up the first kill and then the exit kill on the Nami. Wonderful play from Rumble right there. And this Rumble, he's powered up. That's a needlessly large rod straight bought from that engage.
Yeah, channeling a bit of Lord Flame from yesterday. Just really going for heavy damage early. Looks like an early Zonies might be up for Carry.
Oh, we see the replay right here. So the teleport comes in so late. I thought they would easily be able to DPS down Sivir right here. Sivir gets solo, but she's blown back. And this is where Carry starts things. The flash on the Aqua Prison is insane from Carry. They're able to follow and pick up another kill out of this. Not much mlxg can do right here. The snipe's so close from HeTong as well, but that Rumble is going to be insane this mid-game, and this is not a objective that King can realistically compete with.
Yeah, no, so Vici will secure themselves their first dragon and the second of the game. King don't want to go anywhere near this powered-up Vici lineup in the mid-game, and Carry is casually going to walk through mid up towards his top side of the map as well. Still about 20 CS ahead of Skye, who's still working on this Jarvan, and we've seen this a couple of times. Lane Jarvan, it's a great blocker pick when you get it in a draft. It's a good flex pick, but man, do you feel like your lane's just always so rough.
Well, we saw Flandre playing it, and he was happy to opt into really bad matchups. He was in a 1v2. He was just kind of sauntering around. He's behind in CS. But, I mean, Jarvan's kit has so much utility to it. He doesn't have much of an item cap either. He's actually similar to Rumble in that regard, just because he can impact a team fight without many items. The difference with Jarvan right there is that if he can really stack one stat really effectively, he can get on top of someone. He has so much CC that you can't really get out of his face. And if you can't kill him, he can be very distracting in a team fight.
That was a very close steal there for Dandy. No smite available for that Nunu, unfortunately, and not in range for Consume. So mlxg kind of kites the blue around, and Assassin will get it. So target acquired there for that blue, a very important pickup for King's mid laner.
But you can see that Vici are fighting just for their own buffs, just for their own Raptor camps, just for anything on the map right here, just because of the amazing vision struggle. And we come back to discussing that Blood Boil. It's not for Tristana, okay. I've worked that out so far, pastry time. But what it is for is it doubles down on Vici's movement and the map movement. They're so good at going into the enemy jungle and getting those aggressive wards, and they're able to do it consistently with so much mobility. On the Hunt available, Blood Boil available. Already a very mobile champion is Carry. It's only really HeTong here who's a bit of an immovable artillery. But when he has so much freedom to farm safely, to get those big AP items, he already has that death cap here at 20 minutes into the game. He's going to be able to wave clear happily while he watches the rest of his team go off all over the map.
And I love the item choice from HeTong here as well. Rabadon's death cap has been completed, not the Zhonya's that we almost expected from a lot of standard AP mid laners. So going to be going for full damage in the mid game here, and that really plays well into Vici's comp. They've got a lot of mid game power, and if they're going to have to start pressing, they have to press now, but they're already 7,000 gold ahead.
I've had a few choice words for the Xeraths that have gone for that, gone without a zone. It's gone for the death cap because the damage there not as relevant as the stasis. But Xerath's all about sitting back, doing damage from a long distance away. He doesn't need to rush the Zhonyas. He's happy just to get the AP because the longer that he can wave clear while his team invades the enemy jungle, makes them contest every objective, eventually that vision will lax from King. Eventually there will be that free Baron that we don't see so often in competitive play. But if you never have a chance to go on that side of the map, what are you to do?
We'll have to see here as Dandy is just farming away the Krogs. Counter jungling them. He'll take that with Consume. mlxg tries to defend but cannot get the big Krug, and he'll walk away with a bit of gold to speak of there, but nothing much. And I think the best way to illustrate what's happening in this game is we see Vasilli split pushing down the bottom. Just look at the mini-map, Papa Smithy. Everyone from King is basically in their lower third of the map.
And there's so many nice defensive wards available here for Vasilli that he can basically do whatever he wants. The Janna comes next to Vasilli. They have so much mobility. They can pop on the Hunt if there's too much pushing. And even HeTong zoning right here, stopping anyone from entering the lane. It should be a free objective. And getting that inner turret there in the bottom lane, the Baron Vision, it was already in a wonderful situation, but it's just starting to extend.
I mean, we're bordering on a flawless as Woosh almost gets sniped out by HeTong's ulti. Was a couple of damage away from getting all rocket drum straight back to the fountain and try and get that health back. But I'm just noticing now as well, Vici played such a strong game that they're looking at a flawless victory potentially.
Yeah, flawless victory. No kills on the board, no objectives, the one dragon we have to mention.
Nope, never mind. The dragon does ruin the streak, but still a strong performance.
Absolutely. It's not going to be a complete shutout, but it's not going to feel much better. That's not really much of a consolation prize for King at this point.
No, and King with a lot of aggressive champions here. I mean, Tristana does need to power up, but Lee Sin, Jarvan, and Lissandra all have really strong. That's a good kick back onto the Vasilli. He flashes out though. mlxg just gets eaten there by Rumbles. Damage the tidal wave in a little late, and Danny just speeding in with On the Hunt. We'll throw some snowballs out under the tier 2.
Yeah, choosing a team fight is not what King want to do right here, but they can't really afford for the siege to come through and for them to lose turrets. We see Dandy styling the mid lane a little bit with the dances on Nunu. That's kind of indicative of the fact that King are kind of in a bind. They can't really do anything at this point but watch their turret fall.
And respect to mlxg, that's sort of the play you have to make there. He got a good target for Vasilli, but Vasilli did have his flash available. If he did it again in a minute, that might be a different story, but he was able to get out easily. Vici take another turret here in this game. Now 5-0 in turrets and 7-0 in kills. Dragon up in a minute 35, and King struggling a little bit, have not had the big, strong landing phase we might have expected.
It's one of those Season 5 situations where you look down the items in the CS right here. They're doing very respectable here at King in terms of picking up items, in terms of staying even despite having such a vision disadvantage. But the big issue is that when it comes to movement on the map, They're completely strangled out. They're fighting just to get to their own Raptors, and that's a huge issue for the team.
Yeah, and the gold lead is actually sort of ridiculous for Vici. Despite, you know, a relatively low-score game, you might say, especially for the LPL, they're almost 10,000 gold ahead here. Leym's just going to get eaten there by Carry, flashes right in his face, and smacks him with the overheated rocket.
And that 10,000 gold is mostly going to be the global gold there, HeTong. If we tab over to gold right here, the difference between the supports, which is usually the biggest indicator of how much global gold's out there, is 1,800 gold, which at 23 minutes is a massive advantage. And that all comes from knocking down turrets. 5 down already. This 6th outer turret, not long for this world.
And impressive to knock down turrets with a Sivir, who does not have the longest range, but the Xerath and the poke from Sivir as well. And just the control that Rumble and Nunu have with zoning as well. And, of course, Marta's disengage. This is actually a surprisingly good siege comp.
It doesn't have the engage in an open place. If there was an even amount of turrets down, they'd find it very hard to pick the engage they want. But if you're whacking away at the turret and the enemy has to engage on you, the disengage and space control is so much more relevant for Vici. If they were behind this game, they'd struggle with this comp to make something happen. But they've used their comp so smart, they've doubled down on the vision from those 2 carries, from that Dandy and Marta, and it's really working for them when they're ahead.
And maybe a little sign here that things for Vici are looking up. Not only do they look stellar in the first 24.5 minutes of this game, but there are a full 5 pink wards out on the map. The synergy may be real, Papa Smithy.
It's wonderful to see those down. It's, of course, that 500 gold investment that gives you so much exclusive vision to see once again the long-range artillery shots coming out from HeTong. I guess my only pause, though, Pastry Time, is we've seen Vici have excellent game performances, but match performances over the 2 games, that's not something they've been able to string together so far in the LPL.
We'll see, but looking great here, at least in this first game here against King. And still, 5-0, 8-0 is quite the score. It looks like Vasilli and HeTong have been the big benefits of a lot of gold. Actually, Rumble as well, 4-0-2 for Carry. That's a second needlessly large rod.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost 3,000 gold between the top laners, Pastry Time, which is a massive amount. And Rumble, I mean, we talk about how well he operates when he's behind. He's still a relevant force. He scales very well with the AP when he's ahead. So any sort of structure fight, anything over a neutral objective like Dragon or Baron, it's going to be some explosive damage from that equalizer.
Yeah, we'll see here. I believe 3 dragons done for Vici now. So no, just the 2. King do have their first one as well. mlxg is scouting in towards the top lane, trying to clear out some of these waves a little bit more. But again, so scared of walking through their own jungle. And Vici have done such a great job forward ordering. This Baron might just fall without a contest from King.
Yeah, it might do here. We see everything's out. The Scuttle Crab's dead. The pink wards are down on the map. They have aggressive wards. They have some idea of where the defensive positions have come from King. King are probably going to make a desperation initiation soon, but it's going to be in full vision. It's so hard to get a pick with this pick comp, with the Lissandra, with the Jarvan, if the enemy team has advanced warning.
And it's just such a Vici team comp. I think it's the best way to put it. If we think of Vici as really being Dandy Marta and some other guys who are playing much better than they were a few weeks ago, looking great together here, this is the type of comp that we expect the big utility Vision Kings to play.
Yeah, they got that Janna in the second rotation. I think they were really surprised to see that there. It's opened up a lot of potential, and it looks like the fight's coming, though.
Oh, and Vasilli just spell shields that tidal wave off to Assassin in trouble now as well. Almost gets taken up by the Xerath. Skye forced out as well. Carry just pop the equalizer. He's going to go in with the flame shoot of Vasilli now onto Leym. He's forced to flash out as well. And Dandy, he wants to go in, but doesn't quite do it. Vici forced him up for turret, and that might just break the base.
Yeah, the equalizer there wasn't actually what they were looking for, but it did the intended result. It stopped any aggression from coming in, and now everyone backing from King at the same time means they're going to rush down this inhibitor turret.
Yeah, Janna and Nunu still up as well. Dandy just going to throw a snowball into which say, get out of my face as we take your inhibitor turret there as well. Can't get the inhib yet. Skye is going to get poked a little bit there, a little bit more as HeTong joins in as well. But Vici again, slow, steady, methodical, clean out the vision and just push you back towards your fountain.
And worth noting, this is a Sivir comp, so while it has a lot of wave clear, it's quite poor at actually taking those turrets. So taking an inhibitor turret at 27 minutes is actually a massive boon for Vici. It means that whenever they do get that inevitable team fight win, they can rotate, pick up the inhibitor, and potentially they'll win here. So a massive win getting that inhibitor turret.
And that may have been a result of just maybe a misfire from King or the fact that they know they have to go in. They're so far behind in this game that they made a move. Vici used their disengage tools perfectly, re-engaged for the fight and went in, and it was all good. But even Vici, when they've sieged turrets with the poke from Xerath, have still looked good. Both reactively and proactively, Vici look in complete control of this game.
Whenever Vici gaming are ahead, there are no isolated events. Everything builds upon everything that's happened earlier. When you've had a vision advantage to this degree for so long, there's no, oh, we made one bad decision. It's, we're forced into a corner. We're standing over here. We're feeling claustrophobic on the rift here, and we make these decisions. And sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't. But consistently, if Vici can apply this sort of pressure, they will win far, far more games than they lose.
Yeah, we talked about the poke before. HeTong Xerath is rather far ahead of Assassin here. A full Death Cap upper it was before the need to see La Droga picked up by King ahead. A mountain of gold there for that Xerath, who doesn't even need avoid stuff at this stage of the game.
A lazy 550 AP. I mean, obviously he doesn't want to put too much of that damage onto Skye. He has a lot of magic resist stacking up, but everyone else is going to be deleted.
Yeah, and you know, when your carries get poked off from a screen or screen and a half away, things go bad for you quickly. So Vici maybe going to set up the artillery again here with Xerath. Look to close out this game here. And again, still 6-0, 8-0. Baron is an objective. Dragon should be up in a couple more minutes as well. 3 damage items also done now for Vasilli. Mikhail's done here for Matas Jana as well. I mean, even 8 is done for Dandy with a Glacial Shroud for a potential Frozen Heart. Everything's going well.
But you have to admit that King have done a very good job of finally starting to strangle some vision back of their red side jungle right here. There are some pinks down. Not all the wards have been cleared, but it isn't quite the death zone that it was for the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, no, they've actually gone a little bit further out of their base, getting some more farm here. Whoosh actually keeping competitive in CS is great for their team. 2.5 damage items done there for King's AD carry, so looking good as well. Also, Lissandra 2.5 as well. So King are a few steps behind here in general. They're 10,000 gold behind. That's not a surprise, but looking good. And if they can keep going, maybe 10 more minutes of farming, if this doesn't get any worse, King definitely have a chance with their more late game focused comp.
And King, this settled lineup that top the LSPL, they have good players across the board, and if you look at the CS values specifically, if you ignore the top gold values, they look very competitive. They're not, I mean, you see that Skye is, 30, 40 CS behind. Everyone else is within a shout of their opponents. It's certainly not the 10,000 gold, but this is all macro strategy play from Vici. It's the Vici that we see when they're ahead. And they're really just outplaying them strategically here, King.
And maybe our big question then, we talk about King as being such a strong early game team that use that strength and momentum to carry themselves in. King are well and truly behind in this game, but they've got tools if they take it late to win. The question is, from that position, with the start they have, can they actually do it?
I have to question it. And King, for all their early game prowess, when they're ahead, they look great, but they just haven't had a lot of other strings to their bow. They've really struggled to have an identity in games where they're behind, which is kind of a query to me, just because this is an old Chinese lineup. There isn't the same communication issues right there. I think they just need to work on their mid to late game shot calling, because consistently they just haven't found a way back into games.
Look, Harry's going to make his way in towards the Baron pit now. He's almost level 16. He's got way too much gold there with 2 need to see lateral items, the Haunting Guys, and the Sorcerer's Shoes, looking towards a potential Void Stuff with his Amp Tome as well. Vici just casually setting up vision around this Baron. They'll camp a brush if they need to. They're not wasting any time. HeTong even just going to unleash the ulti for a bit of poke. Hits, I think, no one. Maybe even checking for vision of Vici onto Baron.
There's not many times when you can say this, but I believe Carrie's overheated Flame Spinner might be doing more damage than the Equalizer in a team fight here, just because of how much AP is stacked.
Oh, Assassin going in, laced in! He's stolen the Baron, the Equalizer goes down there. Mata will actually fall there to Tristana. Now Assassin moving in as well, dodges the Q there. Vasilli just flashes in forward, but he's getting dumped there by the Cataclysm. Does actually take out Liz, but goes down to Jarvan, and King might have found a way back into this game.
Unbelievable steal coming out right there. You have to question Dandy's Smite. He had abilities to use Consume and Smite right there. The gap between those abilities was not acceptable, and that is stolen away. And we've seen how many times so far in the LPL that this reset button of picking up a counter Baron can do to the enemy team. King have just got another lease on life.
They've really just opened things up. That was a second win they did not expect. What a steal from mlxg there to kick that off. Whoosh now also powering up. Level 15 into this Triss. Second Dragon going to go over to King as well. We may have thought it was over Vici. When one little slip happens, you lose control instantly.
So we see the replay right here. Assassin comes in, the Smite misses, and Lee Sin just comes in and steals it. The Prince of Thieves, for once, is the person who's pickpocketed here. We see the Equalizer come down, but so much of it is negated from the stasis right here. Vasilli's like, all right, I need to get this kill. But of course, Sivir without flash is instant free fish food to Skye. And now VG's front line's gone. They have to back away. That's a massive, massive turn in the game right there.
And they've shortened the lead as well. 8,000 gold behind now. Not too bad for King. They've got Baron pressure now as well. And they still have that mid inhibitor up. Vici haven't even looked like pressuring it so far. So that is a big deal here. Now Whoosh has got 3 damage items as well. Rabadon's death cap on the way for Assassin. Things are definitely looking up after that great steal.
Yeah, the minimum right here, after they've already taken the Dragon off the back of the Baron here, is to at least get free farm and to close this gold lead right here. And it's starting to be felt. Look at this AD carry right here. 3 big damage items down onto Tristana right here. She's looking very strong. The mid-game hump is over.
Dandy.
The Baron buff, oh wow, it's just stolen away. He gets that one, but it's hardly the important objective right there. He'll take it, but the free farm will be on at least for the next few minutes. That reset button's so strong, that Baron.
Yeah, and just such a great thing for King as well. Looks like carry. No, never mind. Just going to come in now on Rumble. Clear some things out. mlxg off to the side. Thinks about going into Marta, but thinks better of it here. Dandy will spot off the pink ward with the Raptor sense as well, so we'll go in here. Just trade back and forth for the junglers, but Vici kind of realizing, all right, we're going to get our aggressive vision back here and push you back in towards your base again.
And we mentioned it earlier in the game. It's very hard for Vici to make things happen. They don't have the engage right here. So King will be smart to sit back here, get some free farm, continue to close this gold lead right here. They should not give a free inhibitor away. They do not need to do that.
No, they're going to have to fight here. Dandy going to move in. Tycle's Blessing doing a little work here as well for leym, and Vici forced out of the base despite poking Assassin out back towards the fountain. So King are just digging in deep here, and the question was, can they fight back? They're certainly fighting now.
They can definitely delay this game and then engage the game on their own terms very soon. We see a huge wave of minions in top lane. Let's split pushing this one. Should be more global gold in the pocket. The idea of the perfect game is well and truly out the window right here, Pastry Time.
Yeah, we simply instead have a game here as Vici still ahead, going to go in onto Assassin. He gets eaten there by Carry plus Xerath. Now Woosh in a whole host of trouble as well, forced to jump out here. Dandy going to move in, Skye going to get slowed. Dandy with a good flush snowball. Vasilli going to chase him for the damage, and Woosh cannot get out of that as Vasilli takes that. That's 2-0 Vici.
A heroic equalizer coming out, doing so much burst damage that Assassin dies with his ultimate up. He, of course, has 5 seconds of stasis he could have used if he was able to get that first ability out. He couldn't. He falls, and you have to think the game's going to end right here.
Yeah, Vici with the Blood Bowl. Nunu may be good after all here. Going to take out some structures. Still 3 members left for King. They'll fight back here as leym just gets eaten by the Rumble damage. Flame Spitter will turn him to a crisp. Vasilli gets kicked back. That's not a bad start. Dandy, though, with a good op. Mutts are going to kick them out of the absolute zero as well. And Vici look like they can close out the game for here. mlxg would have to make many miracles happen in a row. Instead, he just goes down. That's maybe the ace coming to Assassin. Doesn't really want to be a part of this. And Vici are going to take out the next and take their first game.
You almost never see this sort of snowball coming out of a Rumble, but he's doing so much damage with the flames, but they finish off the game right there. The vision play from Vici that game was textbook. It's the sort of thing that any competitive team could look at and get an idea of how to snowball a lead purely from wards. Getting so much gold advantage without just being ahead in terms of CS right there was super impressive from Vici.
Yeah, and it's one of the things is that, man, it's so impressive to watch good teams play when they play like that. When you just strangle someone out, starve them off the map, and clean out all the resources for yourself, it just seems like the team looks untouchable. You know, we don't see flawless games in competitive league very often, but that was close to one until the misstep. And that's a weakness that Vici did not want to have to show to King.
And Vici has been strong to a misstep all the way through the LPL. That was the 11th game that they've played. Their missteps have been quite pronounced, so let's not pronounce King dead just yet. They're in with a fighting chance in the second game. Vici have had a lot of trouble closing out series right here. And that window, we saw the Baron still right there. Anything can happen in League of Legends.
Yeah, you said it, Papa. What Vici do not want is a 1-1 split yet again. So we'll be back. Can Vici go through for the 2-0? We'll find out as the game 2 between Vici and King is